Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Shortwave Show, the place where we have some fun. Welcome to the Shortwave Show. Everybody, welcome. Hey, everyone. Everything looks fine. Stream's green, that's okay. Hello everybody, welcome aboard another Shortwave Show where anything can happen. We never know. We never know. So karaoke show today. Yeah. We need to do a shortwave song. That would be good. We need to write a shortwave radio song. That'd be nice. The only shortwave related song that I know of in the pop music world is for anybody that have listened to the B-52s, the song Planet Claire. In the beginning, it actually has real shortwave radio sounds, and you even hear CFH, the maritime station from the Canadian Forces, or the Canadian Forces Halifax station, Morse code ID in that song. So if anyone wants to hear that, yes, I did trim my beard. It started to look kind of a little funky and weird, and I went to a store the other day, and the cashier looked at me like weird and was like, "Okay, maybe it's time I trim the beard." I looked like, I don't know, something weird. So hello everybody, welcome aboard. This is the Shortwave Radio Show, and we are here every Fridays at 2000 hours UTC, and hope that everybody's having fun. And we are, of course, going to just have plain fun, talking about radio. And hopefully, we're gonna, have a little bit of listening. And today we're gonna talk a little bit about shortwave broadcasts. I'll mention some broadcasts. I got some people tell me sometimes, I don't know what time and I don't know what to listen to on the shortwave bands, and I don't totally understand, the times and UTC and what happens. And so I'm gonna give some suggestions of shortwave radio stations that you might want to try. Most of them are quite easy, so if you are trying regularly, you should hear some of these broadcasts for sure. So welcome aboard everybody, and my name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, northeast part of North America, and nice to have you on board here. So we're going to say hello to everybody. Nick Amdo from Romania, hello there. Jacob Felder, nice to have you on board from South Carolina, USA. And second time watching, cool. Hope it becomes a habit. Radio Hobbyist, hello there. Nice to have you here. Yeah, I saw K-Index was 4. I don't know if it's risen since then, but we have a solar, there's a coronal hole on the sun, so the solar wind is triggering some minor storms from time to time. We'll see. Richard Cook, hello there. Nice to have you on board. What RTL SDR do you have, Richard? Just out of curiosity. Is it just a dongle? Or it's supposed to be a more advanced one with shortwave on it? Just out of curiosity. Because the basic RTL SDR does not receive shortwave. It actually starts somewhere around 26, 27 megahertz where it starts to receive, and goes up the way to about 1 point something gigahertz. So I don't know which one you got. Bobby Burgess, hello there. Nice to have you here. WA5107SWL is the radio listener call sign. Radioactive, nice to have you on board, Carol. PLF Radio from France, hello there. K6YYL, nice to have you here, Kimberly. It's fun when you start to mention the usernames of people, and also comes to mind their names. It's kind of cool. You start to know people. Gordon Treadwell, VE6 GPT. Nice to have you here. And hope that you enjoy. Here my looks okay. So hopefully it should be okay. And it all depends on, my voice level. I'm just going to put the microphone maybe a little more towards my area, my mouth section. And hopefully it's going to be nice. Blanchard, nice to have you here. Do you know Bark at the Moon by Ozzy Osbourne? I don't know a lot of Ozzy, honestly. I've never been a big fan. So I really don't know a lot of songs of Ozzy except the most popular ones that everybody knows. Dark Noise, nice to have you here from the Netherlands. Vianney Arsenault from the Gaspésie area, east part of the province of Quebec. Nice to have you here. Bienvenue, Vianney. Nicolas Hughes, nice to have you here, and I got beer, so cheers. Evan Tinney from East Texas. Dan Walsh, hello there, and nice to have you here. Well, I'm usually in tune. I sang so many songs at the karaoke that today I'm rarely out of tune. Syrian Willow, hello there, nice to have you on with all of us here. Mad Radio DXer, hello there. Kangaroo King. Nope, no giveaways today. I'm giving away this great show. I think that's already something cool. David Williamson, nice to have you here. Kangaroo King is VA3DLO. Hello, Don. Lee Locke, nice to have you here. What else do we have? I had some 10-meter activity on via sporadic e-skip this week a few times. Not very strong. It's going to get stronger probably as we get into the summer season, but pretty, it starts. It starts now. Mickey Delmage, nice to have you here from warm Alberta, 15 Celsius. Wow. You need an interval signal. Yeah, that's true. I need an interval signal. I have to do an interval signal for my show. And here we're supposed to have some beautiful weather starting this weekend. And it's supposed to go up almost 20 Celsius next week with sunshine. So this is going to be fantastic. And who knows, maybe a few videos from, listening from outside. We had such a winter here. Just crazy. Kangaroo King, what's better, 102-inch whip or Propcom PAT 12-foot fiberglass on 10 meter? You know what? 102-inch whip, which is technically tuned for the CB band, should actually not be too bad on a 10-meter band, honestly, because the resonance is very, very, very close. So I think it's something to try out, but you might just, to listen to the 10-meter band, I think that 102-inch whip would be absolutely great. It's a good antenna. I've got a 102-inch lying on the floor right here, and I need to actually install that. Sorry for the very bright side here. I didn't have. I was compressed with time. I did like everything I needed to do that usually takes 4 hours in 2 hours because I needed to be here for the show. So it's kind of complex. So anyways, hope you enjoy. What else do we have? Blanchard, Swindon, UK. NL 13851, nice to have you here. Rock Ristorante, nice to have you on board. SM0 SBT from Sweden. Pretty cool, with a glass of wine on the table. Cool. And 23 degrees in Stockholm. Lucky you. We don't have these temperatures here right now. We've got crappy cold temperatures. Randall Klontz from Northeast Illinois. Hey. Dave Rhodes, nice to have you on board from Leeds, UK. Bobby by the Chromecast Alive. Oh, you like it? You like it? So 1955 UT, K-index 5. So 5 is, I believe, in the minor storm level. So it's maybe a little minor geomagnetic storm in progress. So propagation might not be as good or will be different. We'll, of course, try it out and tune the bands anyways. Neil Toombs, hey, nice to have you here. Big Stack 171, nice to have you on board from Ottawa. From Ottawa. Yeah, if it's just the RTL SDR dongle, the only little dongle, you do not have a shortwave on that. Richard Cook. Really, you need an up converter, or you need to move up to a soft 66, which is a little more expensive, that has a up converter included on it. The original RTL SDR, which looks like this, for those that wonder what it looks like, it might be black, but this little dongle that's made for DAB TV. This does not receive shortwave. It starts around 20, I believe, above 25 megahertz and up. So that's why you're getting stuff on the VHF UHF range, but you're not getting anything on the side of the shortwave bands. So maybe a bit too loud at the peaks. I don't know. I haven't touched anything, so I'm supposed to be at the same level, honestly, that I am usually. So anyways, we'll see what's going to happen there. And maybe I'm talking louder. I don't know. Maybe I've not, checked it out and just talk a little more. Icon Radio from Ireland. Nice to have you here. Pretty cool. And unless, you know what? I know what might be the problem. Let me just check that out. I think I know why. I've upgraded Windows 10 on this machine, and you know what? Let me just tap the camera. No, it's coming out of the laptop. It's supposed to be okay. That's weird. That's weird. Unless something has changed, the only thing I've changed is I've upgraded Windows 10 on this machine for the latest version. Maybe it changed something. I'll need to check that out. What else do we have? What else do we have? Darkness says, last night I was able to catch Saudi radio on the Mini Whip. They broadcasted 50 kilowatts, 5,000 kilometers from the Netherlands. Good reception. Cool. 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 Yeah, but the up converter, Richard, is a hardware thing. It's not something you do in the software. You need to have the RTL SDR that has the up converter to have it working on the HF band. So just the dongle is not enough. What else do we have? XNA DXer. Hey Keegan, nice to have you here from Northwest Arkansas. 70 Fahrenheit. Wow, I want that. I want that to come here. So Big Stack says, hey, gray line propagation yesterday on 10 meter, Puerto Rico 28310. Cool. William Helms, hey, nice to have you on board from Florida. Yes, I did fix the coax for the VHF UHF. I did a kind of a little sloppy job, a really quick one, but it works. But I will fix it a little better. I think I'm going to buy new coax because it's old coax, and I think it needs, maybe it'd be nice to change it. It's been a little while now. Zach Entel, nice to have you here. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. What else do we have? Nicola Hughes says, drinking a beaker of dihydrogen monoxide. Okay. Should I go LMR 400, 25 feet, or J8 55 feet, new ham, V3 yellow? Below 30 megahertz, RG8 is actually quite good. It doesn't have a lot of loss. LMR 400, you need to keep that for higher frequencies, a VHF and the UHF range. That will be good with LMR 400. That has low loss on these higher frequencies. But below 30, RG8 is usually quite good, honestly. Jerry, nice to have you here. Moria 330, nice to have you on board. Listen, can you tell me where I can look for a FRG7? You know, it's a popular rig. A lot of people are actually searching for that rig, and it's actually a very sexy rig also. You know what? Look at, if you have classified ads in your area, look at classified ads. You'll be surprised what shows what on classified ads. I've Fastload, that sometimes we see in the chat room, he looks at those like regularly every week, and he sometimes sends me a link of, hey, look at that guy, he's got that radio for sale, or he's got a, you know, an old Realistic, an old Kenwood, or whatever. A lot of people actually sell radios through the classifieds. So first, classified ads. If you know of any Hamfest going on around your area somewhere, a Hamfest is this another great place to find a FRG7 at a decent price. And basically that would be, and the rest, you know, you can look online, but you know, eBay tends to be expensive. There tends to be, it tends to be way too expensive on eBay to buy these old radios, and I think that, you know, you need to really get, it's better to get, you know, either a Hamfest or something like that, and don't spend too much. You know, like Fastload's got one. Fastload found one at the Hamfest, and he actually had it for what, I think it was $75, which is not bad at all, the price, you know. But check around. Darkness says, Joe, you can have shortwave on the RTL dongle, the no hardware mod RTL SDR.dll file. Oh, really? So it gives you a wider coverage with the regular RTL? I need to try that out just for the fun of it and maybe make a video. So, okay, well then what you need to do, what you might have not done, Richard, for your RTL is you need to have the offset. There may be an offset, and you need to have the offset. So that offset, depending on your device, could be 40 or 50 megahertz. It depends on the device. So when you go to HF, you have to set the offset in the software. So for HD SDR, for example, you've got that little button here right next to the frequency. When you click on that, it's going to give you some more options for the driver of your RTL SDR. One of them is an offset that you need to set, and you turn it on when you listen to shortwave. Turn it off when you actually want to listen to VHF, UHF. Maybe that's what you haven't done. Audio Slaughter, since you upgraded to Windows 10. So, well, it was on Windows 10 already. I just upgraded to the new version that will be released in a week or two for everybody else. So I am on the April 2018 update right now. So you know, and I did notice there are a few things that had changed, including camera. It didn't want to start my my Logitech C920. You wanted to use the cheap camera from the laptop, which is really horrible. Well, you talk about you beginning using SDR console. I'll talk about it a little bit. Yeah, and but I don't have too much to say yet. I need to this weekend. I'll be using it more and checking it out. I'm still not used to it, so it's kind of, for me, it's easier to just use HD SDR for now because I've used it so much. I'm used to the controls. But I will talk about it a little bit, absolutely. What else do we have? Kevin Y, hello there, nice to have you here. Randall Klon says 16 Celsius, 61 Fahrenheit, Northeast Illinois. Cool. What else do we have? Oh, so that's your SDR that you have. Oh, okay, okay. 100 kilohertz, full band. Okay. So there must be an offset. I'm pretty sure that you just need to put the offset. I'm not sure what the offset is for this one. the Magi deal, 100 kilohertz to 1.7 gigahertz, full band HFRTL SDR USB tuner receiver, R820T plus 8232 ham radio. 23 pounds, that's what, about 40 Canadian dollars, 35 to 40 Canadian dollars. 35. Not bad. So I guess, you know what, I would guess that you might just not have the set it up with the correct offset. With the correct offset. That's what I guess here. Running clause, can you attach two radios to one antenna? Absolutely, that's exactly what I'm doing here. My ICOM and my Fedri SDR that you see here are both on my sloper antenna together. The only thing is if you are an amateur radio operator and you use a transceiver, you got to make sure that if you plug the more than one radio on the same antenna, that it actually has an on-off switch, because when you transmit, the other radio needs to be off the antenna, off the feed line, to make sure that you don't overload the circuitry, the receive circuitry, and blow out the amplifier, the RF amplifier. If you have a transceiver, you really need to disconnect. It needs to disconnect the other radio while you're transmitting. But if it's just receive, you can have 2-3 radios on the same antenna. It is going to work. You can also add a switch box. Some people have switch box and they just switch the radio. But mine is simply connected to a little U connector, if you want. At one end, the antenna from outside comes in. There's two connectors at the other end. One connector is used for the Fedri. One connector is used for my ICOM. And so both radios are on at the same time, the same antenna. Steve and Maxine in Australia, nice to have you here. Yeah, I saw that you guys had an earthquake there, Jerry. Nothing here, nothing at all, nothing at all. So I don't know. At least they haven't talked about anything. We haven't had one here in a couple of years now. Last one was a surprising one. It was like there was like a loud boom, and I remember because the last one we had here in Montreal, I was up. It was maybe midnight, 1 a.m. and I was about to go to sleep, and it was extremely quiet because I had turned off everything, and I started hearing the rumbling, and then this weird boom sound, and it was kind of surprising. And you know what? That's where I saw that radio has literally changed over the years. I remember when we had, you know, here in Montreal, you guys in California are going to laugh your head off. Here in Montreal, we have so little earthquakes that even a small 3.0 is going to make us go crazy, because we don't have earthquakes. And so every time there's a small 3.0 or something like that, well, you know, the radio starts going crazy, and the social media goes crazy because there's an earthquake. It's like we have something to talk about. There's an earthquake. But you know, you guys in California have like, you know, a dozen of those every day. But here it's like we have one of those every 3 or 4 years or 5 years, you know. So it's always surprising. And last time we had one, that's where I noticed that radio has changed. Because when I was young, you know, we had one, we did have one that was bigger. When I was, in 1988, something like that, I was 18, 19 years old. I remember there was a 6.2 in the, that was in the Saguenay region of Quebec. And of course here in southern Quebec it kind of shook, you know, and there was a little bit of damage, and actually everybody was surprised because this is, you know, a 6.0 here in Quebec is really an exceptional event. And you know, back then what would happen? You'd have an earthquake, and you'd turn on the radio, and it would take 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you'd have all the radio stations talking about it and taking phone calls from people, and you know, TV would change their broadcast to whatever. Today, the last time we had one, which was, I guess, 3 years ago, maybe something like that. I don't even remember. In the past 5 years, anyways, I turned on the radio. My reflex was I turned on the radio. Hey, there was a shaking and there was a boom. What's that? And the boom actually was surprising. It was like, wow, did something blow up? You know. And tune the radio. Nothing. I went to social media. I went on my Facebook page, and I just typed, anybody feel a little bit of rumbling and a boom? And then everybody was like, oh yeah, I was wondering what that was. It's like, okay, we had an earthquake. And social media was the first place that I saw everybody else say, hey, there's an earthquake. Then of course you go to the website of the Canadian Geological Survey, and it took maybe 15-20 minutes, and then it appeared a little dot on like near Montreal, where it was saying, well, okay, there's an earthquake, there's something happening. But there were 2 stations that talked about it. There's a 24-hour traffic station, which I guess is one of the only stations where there's somebody 24 hours a day over there. And the guy giving the traffic info started saying, hey, we're getting calls of people mentioning that there was maybe an earthquake or something. So the traffic station was the first to announce it, basically. And there was a live show on CJ80 800, which was the English language talk station. And they, at some point, mentioned, oh, people are calling saying, hey, there's maybe an earthquake or something happened. We'll try to find information about it. But honestly, social media was way ahead of anything else. And it shows how everything has shifted today. We know our stuff, and you know, so many things are announced through Twitter today. Twitter is our news feed. It's like we know everything from Twitter or from Facebook before we know it from the news on TV or whatever. And the stations, you know, when I was in the 80s, most stations had people around the clock with different shows and stuff. Now you find out that most stations have pre-recorded stuff and don't have any means of giving us news, which is, whoa, what has changed? It's so weird, you know? It's just crazy. But it shows us how media has changed and how the information we get has changed. It's just crazy. Okay, I'll stop babbling and go down slowly. So Bob T, hey there. Would I need a copper insulated wire for better reception with my SDR? If so, what would you recommend? Currently, I have a regular insulated wire taped around the walls, my second floor study. You know, as long as it's a metal wire, there are some metals that are better than other because of their conductivity, so they are technically better antennas. Technically, copper is better than aluminum, or, you know, but in the real world of things, it has very little effect on the reception for shortwave. And what would probably be I get that, first of all, a lot. People say, does the wire need to be insulated, not insulated? Insulation doesn't change anything on the shortwave bands. It doesn't affect. So the fact that the wire is insulated or not doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And actually, if you have wire outside, it's better that it's insulated because it prevents the wire from actually getting corroded by, you know, the rain and the elements. Especially copper, which kind of turns in a green weird thing. So the best thing that you could do, honestly, would be maybe if you can have that wire outside instead of inside, sorry guys, you might have better reception because you'll probably have less noise. Also, depending on what's the construction of the building where you are. Also, if you put a wire outside, the best thing to do then is coaxial cable that has a shield around it, so that outside you have your regular copper or insulated wire, whatever it is, and you tap it to the center of the coaxial cable, the center connector, and the shield of the coaxial cable you can ground, which will prevent the noise from reaching the wire inside. So inside your home you have, like here, here I've got a sloper antenna, which is it's a copper insulated 22-meter long wire that I have in the backyard. It goes into a box that has a 9-to-1 Unun, and there's a connector at the bottom where my coax is coming inside the home. So I've got a shielded cable all the way inside the home, prevents the noise from inside my home from getting in the antenna. And the regular wire, insulated wires, outside in the backyard, basically. So that is kind of a different setup, and that might actually make things better. Maybe in your, I don't know, what's your, it's kind of interesting, because when I get questions like that, what I would like to see very often is, I'd like to see you tune around and see what you're receiving. An example of that, fast load that you guys know in the chat, came here at Christmas, and at some point he turned on my ICOM and started tuning around with the ICOM here, and he said, wow, you're complaining about noise, but you've got less noise than I have at my place. And I said, oh really? He said, yeah, you're hearing things that I'm not even hearing where I live. And I say, whoa, okay, kind of interesting. So sometimes it's interesting to compare the reception conditions between everybody, because you might have more noise, but you might not have as much noise as me, for example, and it might be actually already good, just the insulated wire around the walls of your study. It depends on the noise around you a lot. Dark Noise NL says the no hardware mod RTL SDR DLL file gives you the coverage from 2 MHz up to the 30 meter band, just in regular, or megahertz, I would guess maybe it's megahertz you mean, just in regular quadrature mode. No offset up converter required. DLL file works with R820T, T2, and R828D. Huh, kind of interesting. I didn't know about that. I'll have to check that out. This dongle is an R820T, I believe. So I'll try that. Thanks for the tip. We'll try that for sure. In Ontario, people in I believe in Windsor, Ontario, somewhere southwest of southwest of Ontario, London, Windsor. So that Dave Todd saying. So I got an email from Jerry saying, hey, feel the earthquake. Oh no, it's on Twitter. I think, isn't it on Twitter that you sent me? I think it's on Twitter. Jerry said, hey, you feel the earthquake? When I woke up this morning, I was like, what earthquake? And I went to the news and saw nothing. So I guess it was, we didn't feel it here in southern Quebec. Sometimes we do feel it a really wide range. Sometimes we get a small one here, and it because of the rocky nature of the Canadian shield, sometimes the earthquake goes pretty far, and we get one here in Montreal, and then we see that the state of New York, state of Maine, parts of Ontario have felt it also. So it's a 4.1. Wow, that's enough to really feel it well. 4.1 is one of the highest. Last time we had something anything bigger than 3 here. I don't think we had something higher than 4 since the 1988 6.2 up in Saguenay. And that one, actually, there was a beautiful documentary about that one in Saguenay. And they said that it surprised everybody. Nobody thought that there was a possibility of a 6.0 earthquake in southern Quebec at that point. And it really made a change in what we knew about the ground in the southern Quebec region, because until then we had never really had anything bigger than 3 or 4, and that 6.2 had surprised everybody. And actually, if you guys look at Saguenay earthquake 1988 on YouTube, there's a few good videos where you see that it really moved something good. And I remember, because it was the early evening here, and I was at home. At that time, I was at home. I had finished work. I was at home. I was still living with my parents, and I was at home with my mom. And in the house, one of the windows was a little bit loose, so every time there was a little bit of wind or something, you could hear the window shake. And I remember I was on my Commodore computer doing something, and I remember hearing the shake, but it wouldn't stop. And I remember telling my mom, "Hey, mute the TV. There's something." And she stopped. She muted the TV, and we could hear the rumbling, and the window was shaking, and it lasted a good 30 or 40 seconds. And I thought, "Whoa, it's an earthquake." So Jeff K85 QDO, hello there, nice to have you here. Nicola Hughes says CRI a little better on 6100. Is Quebec area subjected to earthquakes? PLF Radio. We do have small earthquakes because there are some. The valley, the St. Lawrence Valley, does have the potential to do little earthquakes, but we don't have really big ones. Another thing that makes earthquakes here in southern Quebec. So here in Montreal, 50,000 years ago, we were below water and ice. We were below, there was like tons of ice over us about 50,000 years ago. And it was so heavy that it pushed the Canadian Shield, the rocky terrain of the southern part of Canada, it pushed it down a lot because it was very heavy. So Montreal, to give you guys an example, rises about 10 centimeters, 5 to 10 centimeters a year. So this year, for example, I'm probably anywhere from 5 to 10 centimeters higher than at the same time last year, and so on, because there's no more ice that's giving the push down. So what's happening is that the Canadian Shield is slowly rising back to take its position, and that in itself creates little cracks and creates little earthquakes. But we don't have anything near like the California or the West Coast. The West Coast, even here in Canada, the West Coast of British Columbia, it could have really major earthquakes, because there's all of that. There's the Pacific and North American plates that are pushing once against each other over there, up to Alaska. But here on the east, it's rather quiet on that side. So we have earthquakes every few years. I have little 3.0, 3.5, maybe a 4. The biggest we've had is 6.2 in 1988, but since then it's been rather quiet. But we can have little earthquakes. And I did read something about the natives that were here before we arrived have stories of earthquakes that seem to be in the major side. I remember looking at the Geological Survey site of Canada, and they were mentioning that in the 1500s there's a story that the natives were saying that and continued with time, and they say that there might have been something like a 7.0 here in Montreal back then, which means you never know. And actually the latest code for construction here in Montreal accounts for that. So if you build a building, if you have a high rise, it has to withstand a strong earthquake. Because even though we never had, or we in our living time, a 7 or 8.0, because of some of the things we've heard from the past, there's kind of an indication, and and watching the soil, there's kind of an indication that there might be a possibility of a big one. Of course, it's going to happen real. It would be. Imagine a 7.0 would happen right now here while I'm live. It's like, okay, I would probably be a little scared because we don't have these things here, What else? Nicolas can't hear. North Korea 6400. Yeah, they are, Nicola, but the K index is at 5. We're having a minor geomagnetic storm right now. This affects shortwave propagation, so you might not hear it right now because propagation is not good towards North Korea. Kimberly says, the biggest earthquake I have felt right here in Claremont, it was 5.5, and I was on the second floor. It scared me so much. So, Lilac back with Stella Artois. Interesting. That's a good beer. I've had a few. So, going down. So, David Williamson, use a selector switch. Yeah, for the antenna switching, absolutely, you can use that. Bill Mead, imagine what the local news stations would be like in Los Angeles if they got 20 centimeters of snow. Exactly. That would be the equivalent. Yes, absolutely. Ashit Joshi. Rest in peace, Avicii. Yep. Yeah, he's dead. He died today, I think. Today or yesterday. Tuto Channel, nice to have you here. Bill, K3WDR, hello there, welcome aboard. Nicola Hughes. So, yeah, propagation is not the best, absolutely. William Hill, so much about the myth about Schedule 40 PVC pipe. I've learned about them. Okay. What else do we have? Dave Todd says was only 4.1. Hey, bonjour, hi Sheldon in Greenfield Park, Quebec, and nice to have you on board. And of course, as we have Sheldon here, don't forget that you can join and you can check out the Canadian International DX Club Bulletin, the Messenger. Canadian International DX Club is also a club, so you'd be part of a club. And it's $10 a year for membership. You get a beautiful PDF bulletin in the by email every month, and you can, if you want, you can get a sample copy for free. If you ask for a sample copy in the past, don't ask again because you only allowed one sample copy. And you can send that to cidxclub@yahoo.com. cidxclub@yahoo.com. And Sheldon is also a part of the International Radio Report Show on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. They have a 30-minute show about radio every Sundays, 14:30 UTC. This Sunday I'll be part of the show, so if you want to tune in, and of course tune in all the time. It's always nice to tune into that show. It's always interesting. There's always Sheldon has always some great stories to that on that show about radio, and I will be there this weekend. And of course, there's the International Radio Report Facebook webpage. So if you go to the Facebook page of the International Radio Report, you'll have information about what's happening with the show. You can post some comments. You can post articles about radio-related items, and it's always nice. So. Lots of stuff. Sheldon is a busy guy with all of the things he's doing. And, of course, Sheldon is with David on the International Radio Report. And like I said, this weekend, I will be part of the show this weekend. So, if you want to listen in. Radio Comms, hey, from Ireland, nice to have you here. What else do we have? What else do we have? SWL France. Hello, bonjour, ça va bien? Nice to have you on board from France. Your head is almost the same height as the top of the pirate flag. Yeah, well, it's the way the camera is positioned, I guess. You know, I need to... what else do we have? Shake, 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 shake your booty. Yeah, Sheldon. Oh, God. What else do we have? What else do we have? You can hear interference from typing on the radio. Yeah, it's, you know, some radios are a little noisy. The circuitry inside the radio is noisy, and we have, you know, some of them are really create a lot of noise within the radio itself. Dave Todd says on the Richter scale of 5.0 you change your fine china, a 6 you change your everyday dishes, a 7 you change your underwear. David Elkins, nice to have you here. Enoch Nevdal, nice to have you on board, and yes, we have beer. Jay says, I guess New York would crumble to the ground if they got a 7 to 8.0 earthquake. Well, these are major. Above 7, they're really getting big. You know, here, there was some damage for the the Saguenay one in the 80s, 6.2. There was some damage in the Saguenay area, Chicoutimi, in the Quebec region, Quebec also. Here in Montreal was more of a little shake, but pretty crazy. 1RR, nice to have you here. And the K2 says, hey, we're talking about earthquakes. I was in the Nisqually earthquake in Seattle. Nisqually earthquake in Seattle on Ash Wednesday 2001. 6.8. Well, that's gonna shake you. 6.8 is gonna shake you. Yeah, Art Bell passed away. That is a big name in radio, honestly. You know, I mean, Art Bell is kind of one of those. It's one of those institutions. You know, it's something that was on the radio, and that, you know, as I started, you know, probably the first time I heard Art Bell was in the 80s when I started tuning around the medium wave band with U.S. stations, and you know, it's been a regular on and off tuning to the shows there on U.S. stations regularly. So to the channel, is 1 millimeter diameter magnet wire a good shortwave antenna? As long as it's wire and metal, it is a okay antenna. It should be okay antenna. You know what makes you want to choose different sizes of of wire is mostly for the ruggedness, because you can get the wire. You know, if you put a wire outside, you'll want a minimum size, because, you know, wind and the weather effect can easily break small gauge wire, small gauge wire. So you'll want to have, you know, something that is a little bigger in general, because it's more difficult to break, basically. Jerry says your head's almost the same as the top of the flag because Montreal raises 10 centimeters a year. Well, technically the flag should be raising 10 centimeters a year also. Oh, man. Oh, God. Yeah, why not? Dark Noise. I'll add you as moderator. Here you go, Dark Noise. You've been here quite a few times, so you can now post links. But the links don't often work well, so check it out. But yeah. What else do we have? Dave Todd says my first shortwave antenna was a Princeton Sky Wire. It was pretty decent. Huh. Handy Coley, nice to have you here. 6 meter was open apparently. Oh, cool. You know, I heard a few 10 meter contacts this week, so it's time where that's 6 meter, you know, and I love 6 meter, just love 6 meter. Yeah, it's 28. Well, that's too young to die. That's really too young to die. So yeah, absolutely. As Sheldon says, the membership to Canadian International DX Club is open to everyone, not just Canadians. And there's content in that messenger publication for everybody also. Acholikov, Ivan, hello there. Good afternoon. Nice to have you here. No problem, Tutu channel. Any questions? There's some great people in the chat room to answer that also. Radarcoms, Guinness just released a new lager called Rockshore. Hope to have a few tomorrow night. Ah, interesting. That's going to be something to check out. And Yvonne says 10 meter band is open today. And let me just check if there's anything. Now, I'm going to go on the channel 6. See if there's anything propagating there. By the way, I was tuning around with, I've got a walkie-talkie there, a realistic 40 channel set, and it had batteries in it, so I wanted to check out if it still worked, and I turned it on. I guess it was Sunday, last Sunday. I turned it on and it was about 1 in the afternoon, and on channel, I believe was channel 7 on a CB band, there was somebody playing interval signals from shortwave stations. And I was like, what? What is that? And somebody was playing old interval signals from shortwave stations. And it went on for about half an hour. And then it logged off. And when it logged off, I actually sent a call. I tried to get, hey. I said, hey, interval signal guy. I tried to reach and see if it could hear me. I never got a call back, except a few whistles. So I would guess maybe he heard me, but it was too shy to answer. I don't know. But anyways, for about 30 minutes, it was not very strong, but it was strong enough that I could easily hear. I mean, he played old interval signals from Swiss Radio International and Radio Sweden and stuff like that. It was like, wow. He even put on the air part of a broadcast from Radio RSA. So I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. It lasted about 30 minutes, and since then I've been actually turning on my CB and tuning into different channels regularly, just in case the guy comes back. So pretty interesting. Something strange with his computer. Your head is only reaching the top of your computer monitor. Yeah. Revelda65, nice to have you here. Emil Johnson, nice to have you here. Is there any frequencies which can be used for listening to space, like the hydrogen line? Yeah, well, listening to space involves frequencies that are usually above the shortwave bands, except there's exceptions. So, for example, we know that Jupiter, when the planet Jupiter's up, you can actually hear Jupiter. It usually sends out all sorts of kind of crackling sounds, and sometimes it might sound like the ocean waves in the background, like a white noise that comes in and out a little bit. And apparently you don't need really a lot of very fancy equipment. And when Jupiter is high up in the sky, it's worth trying it out. Jupiter is one of those, it's a planet in our solar system that has actually, and it has a lot of emissions on the radio frequency range. So that's around 21, 22, 23 megahertz when people hear it. On spaceweather.com, which is one of the websites I regularly look at what's happening, from time to time they post there's this guy in, I think it's New Mexico, that is a big fan of listening to these space signals, and he sometimes posts the noise that he's received on his SDR, and usually in the 21, 22 megahertz range. Sorry. But apart from that, most of what you'll hear from space, of course, there's the satellites that will be on the, there's some on the VHF range, UHF range, and much higher frequency ranges also. But most of that will be in the above 30 megahertz range. You know, you're giving me an idea. Next week, the show will be in the VHF UHF channel because it's the last Friday of the month. Maybe we should do a special on receiving space signals, not just satellites. The different phenomena and space signals that you might actually hear within the VHF UHF range. There's I'll be checking that out this week. That could be an interesting special show for next week. And I got to warn you guys, next week the show's going to be a little, it's going to be really shorter than usual because there's a birthday. Two of the girlfriends well, actually, Faslow's wife, Isabel, and one of my personal friends that we went to school together, Caroline, and we will be. They have a special evening in the karaoke bar here next to where I live, so I'll have a shorter show. It'll be about 2 hours next week because I'll have to head on there to because we have a fondue supper and we have a night of drinking and karaoke. So it's going to be a little shorter than usual because of that, because it's both of these girls' birthday. And if I'm not there, somebody's going to kill me because it's impossible for me not to be at their birthdays. So that's going to be a little shorter next week. But next week is the VHF UHF show. Tomorrow, no shows, by the way. For those that, yeah, tomorrow's show. Sorry, I'm mixed up here. Tomorrow's show, yeah, at 2000 UTC. Sorry. So tomorrow we have another show at 2000 hours UTC. Of course, we'll talk about shortwave once again, tune the bands. Hopefully, propagation might be a little better. So tomorrow, if you can join us at 2000 UT, we'll be here also. So now I can take my breath and take another, I've never. Well, let's go a little. I'll go in order here because sometimes I don't want to miss out on something. Farney Jr., hey there, nice to have you here. Mr. Tracy Williamson, hello, nice to have you on board. Findlay, Ohio. What else do we have? So yeah, you can listen to radio waves on from Jupiter on something not very expensive. Apparently, the emissions from Jupiter are actually very strong. I've never, you know what? And that's the thing that's interesting. I've never heard the Jupiter emissions around 21 megahertz. But when I was listening, because I saw many, and heard many clips, audio clips. And sometimes I'm thinking, you know what? I probably have heard Jupiter dozens of times, just not knowing that I was listening to some crackling or some noise coming from Jupiter, thinking that it was some kind of local interference maybe. Because when you listen to it, you're like, okay, I might have heard that and, just didn't know it was that. That's it. So Atlanta Rodriguez, nice to have you on board. Spring finally here in Michigan. Well, I hope it's finally here in Montreal, I can tell you that. Because we have enough of the bad weather. But apparently this weekend and next week is going to be pretty nice. And of course you can download, you can listen to satellites that are around the Earth, in the 137 megahertz range, weather satellites of all sorts, Orbcoms. There's the 150 megahertz region where there's the Cosmos satellites from Russia, which are navigation satellites. So we'll try that. We'll try all sorts of things, but it'd be nice if I could listen to a Jupiter signal and know it's Jupiter. I guess that's the it's kind of the ultimate DX, you know. You'll listen to something that's what Jupiter is like 700 million kilometers away, something like that. That's kind of an ultimate DX. Listening to a signal from 700 and some million kilometers. That's kind of cool. What else do we have? What else do we have? Yeah, but I've never heard anybody here to Saturn. You know, I mean, every planet probably has some emissions of some sort. You know, it's like Venus. Planet Venus has, you know, lightning strikes, and it was discovered when the Russians sent their Venera space probes to Venus and landed on the planet, and they noticed that there were some you know, some static crashes from what was lightning, you know. So I mean, a lot of planets, and you know, there's lightning, but there's also all the phenomena behind the magnetic fields. You know, Jupiter has a huge magnetic field, so it creates all sorts of, you know, weird sounds and all sorts of transmissions. You know, pretty crazy. What else do we have? Meteor M2 images. Yep, absolutely. Cosmic Lettuce, nice to have you here. I for once that I went to your I was there yesterday at 0200, and hope you're feeling better now, my friend. I was hoping to see your astronomy broadcast yesterday. I hope you really feel better. Hey, Brian, Iowa. Yes, I do sing karaoke, and I sing a lot of songs. I have a very big repertoire of songs, and apparently I sing well. So, and so yep, I do sing. I actually like to sing a lot. What else do we have? Juan Amigo from Barcelona, nice to have you on board. Nope, we didn't feel that earthquake here in southern Quebec, Svetlana Rodriguez. So, Sheldon says it's just about spring in Toronto because the leaves are almost out. That's a good or bad joke depending on what you want. Well, you know, it's like our fantastic Montreal Canadiens this year that were like, okay, rather bad. And Mark Schmidt from Maine, an email saying, hello, enjoying your live show. Hello there, Mark. Nice to have you here. And I did get your email, by the way, for your new email. I just one thing though. I for those that, because I got an email from somebody who said, hey, you're live, but I didn't get an email. I was so compressed with time, I didn't have time to send the emails to the groups today. So unfortunately, I'm sorry about that. I was very compressed with time today. It's totally crazy, and I'll be very compressed with time tomorrow also. So what else do we have? Luis Avero, do shortwave stations follow any guidelines? Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So if you look at the stations, the international broadcasts, there are several guidelines that they follow, because one of the things you don't want is to interfere with others, and of course interfering with others means that you also might not be heard. So basically what happens with international broadcasts is that they, first of all, they have to, most of them obey the rules of the bands that they use. So there are specific bands for international broadcasters. Like there are specific bands for different types of transmissions. Maritime stations, aeronautical stations, amateur radio. There are a set rules of frequency ranges that everybody, technically most people obey to make sure that they're okay. Then there are rules of course, they'll, most of them will, of course, go to the HFCC and have the coordination of their frequencies and times so that they can see if they interfere or not with somebody else. Then you will have, of course, their regular schedule, so they'll obey the rules of being at specific times, specific frequencies. You gotta also follow the rules of frequencies, because if you're, I don't know, if you're Radio Romania and you transmit on the 13-meter band at midnight to North America, you might notice you're not heard, because there are frequencies for daytime, nighttime, and specific times of the day. So it depends on where you want to reach and everything. So there are some specific guidelines of different, but some stations are a little out of this. Radio Havana, Cuba, for example, is not doesn't go put its frequencies to the HFCC and stuff like that. So sometimes they just choose a frequency and start interfering with everybody else. I was listening to the Ask WWCR, I think it's called, last Saturday night, and or was it IWR Wavescan? They were talking about the HFCC and the different times that there's the meeting of the HF broadcasters and everything. They were mentioning that apparently Radio Havana Cuba wants to participate. So I don't know, maybe things will change in the future. But there are a certain number of rules, absolutely, that pretty much everybody follows. Some are official rules. Some are rules set for the good order of things that most people will obey. And of course, there's sometimes a transmission or two that's out of band somewhere where it's like, what are you doing in that weird frequency range, for example, Sheldon Harvey says, when you hear Saturn, it has a certain ring to it. Funny Sheldon today. Okay, Tolvidas Lagunavicius. Hello there, nice to have you on board, and never be sorry because you're late. There's more important things to do than watching my show and seeing my face on the computer screen, I guess. Sheldon, how many Duran Duran karaoke songs do you have? You know what, Sheldon? I actually sing only one, and it's Rio. I don't sing Duran Duran. I sing, my usual evening singing of karaoke will be Coldplay songs, The Doors, it's in my range. There will be things like the Black Keys, there will be things like Billy Idol, Simple Minds, and some old, some older rock and roll, like, Born to Be Wild by Steppenwolf and stuff like that. That's pretty much my range, but I probably have over the years I've been singing at karaoke for like 20 years. So over the years, my range of songs that I sing well, I probably have like 250 or 300 songs that I sing well. So every time I go there, I just switch songs and not to sing the same songs all the time. But but there's only one Duran Duran song, Sheldon. So I'll sing it on that CKUT on Sunday morning, and he's going to kick me out. You're going to hear me being kicked out by Sheldon from the International Radio Report show. Yvonne says, yesterday I published a recording of the AM stations I was able to pick up in Hawaii. It's on YouTube. Oh, I'm going to check that out. Really cool. That's really cool. If I go to places around the world, one of the things I want to do is absolutely to one of the things I want to do is absolutely to listen to the radio in different countries around the world. That's something that must be so cool. Hey, Judge Simon, nice to have you here. Thanks for the promotion. And let's not, why not show it up for a few seconds? If you like what I do, paypal.me/shortwave for a PayPal donation, or at the Yahoo email you see here. You can become a patron at patreon.com/radio and computers. Helps me out. For example, there was a problem with my lighting system today, and I had to spend money to fix all of that before the show today. And now I understand one thing. There's another spot that's not working. I need to buy another one there. So my lighting system just gave up on me starting yesterday. One of the lamps that has a LED, special LED bulb in it, actually burned out. And of course it's rated for 5 years use, and it burned out after 6 months. But anyways, basically your donations help me do that. Fix the things that are not working so I can still be here and do the live shows. So why not, if you like what I do, if you've never donated before and you know you've got a little bit of money spare, why not, why not think about it, a little donation. If you enjoy what I do, if you've been watching for years, it's something to check out, a little something. And you know what? Every amount helps. You don't have to. I get regularly donations of people saying, "Well, you know what? I'm sorry, I don't have this to give." Never be sorry. If I've got something like 15. There's like 12 or 13,000 subs to my shortwave channel. If I get 50 cents from all of them, which is a very small amount, I'd actually have a nice amount. It's not the amount that counts. It's the steady donations and the fact that there are, the maximum amount of people. And I gotta tell you just one thing: if you give even $1, you have given more than 90% of people watching. Gives you an idea. Thank you for your donations, and I totally understand those that can't donate. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Okay, what else do we have? What else do we have? And I'll be checking that out, Yvonne, for sure. For sure. Rock Ristorante. Okay, Jerry says, are you celebrating 420 today? What is there to celebrate today? Every day is a celebration. Lelock has the right one. Yeah. So thank you very much, everybody, for your donations. It's always very, very. Kimberly wants her Jupiter QSL card. Wish me luck. My Alpha Centauri QSL card should be here any day now. Oh, man. That reminds me of, I've watched Lost in Space, the new series that they've made on Netflix. I watched the first season, and I actually found it to be good. There was mixed bag reviews, but I actually found a new Lost in Space series not bad at all. And I like the twists, the robot that is friendly and scary at the same time. In the original one, the robot is like always friendly. And the new one is friendly but scary at the same time. You're not sure. And the fact that Dr. Smith is a woman instead of a man, it's kind of interesting. I kind of enjoyed the first season. I hope they do a second one. I think it's going to be interesting. And yes, be sure to give me thumbs up, subscribe, and tell me you love me. You don't have to tell me in that specific range, but you can say, hey, I love what you do, and it's going to be great. And Cosmic Lettuce says, you have a great singing voice. Yeah, well, you know what? When I go to the karaoke, now I've got people that actually want me to let them know, because they want to, there's a live camera at the bar, karaoke bar where I go, so they can actually watch me sing. I'm getting a fan club of karaoke now. International fan club. Andrea DXer says, I guessed correctly when I thought which Duran Duran songs you sing. Maybe I also thought you sang Hungry Like the Wolf or Reflex. Actually, Hungry Like the Wolf, my nephew sings it, so I have a rule in karaoke, and my rule is to never sing a song that somebody else sings. It's, you know, it's not an official rule, but I do have this rule. If I know somebody that sings a song, I will never sing that song. So my nephew sings Hungry Like the Wolf. I did do the reflex a few times because there was one guy over there that was the DJ a couple of years back. He liked the reflex and he was telling me, "Hey, sing the reflex." And I was like, "Well, I'm not really good at singing the reflex." And he was telling me, "Yeah, you're better than you think. Come on, sing it, you know." But you know, Rio is pretty much the only one I do. I sometimes do Ordinary World also. But I rarely sing Duran Duran, honestly. Sheldon says, "Jill up next on Star Academy." Yeah, right. I will not be there, I can tell you that. He is popular on YouTube with his shortwave and tech shows. Here he is now, is on Star Academy singing Duran Duran. And I see Sheldon changing the channel. You could have sang so many other things. But, you know, I have a wide range and I like to try new songs. I often try new songs. That's you know, I used to go there on Monday nights because there's always very little people there on Monday nights. And usually on the Monday nights we are like we're a little gang that we all know each other. And what's cool with that is that on Monday nights, because there's not a lot of people, we try new songs, we try things we wouldn't do when there's like it's full of people. You know, when there's, you know, when the bar is full, you don't want to do songs you don't know. You want to do your songs that you do well, you know. So I'll try to be there, Cosmic Lettuce, if I can tonight. For once, I remember, actually, Cosmic Lettuce, thanks to Bobby Burgess, that sent me a little notification and say, "Hey, you're going to be there at 0200 for the astronomy show." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I was about to forget." So I actually turned on the PC and everything. And it was sad that you weren't there because I can tell you that it's really nice. Well, thank you, Cosmic Lettuce. Jill hands his passion out for free. Honored to support him. Thank you very much, Cosmic Lettuce. What is my last QSL card? My last QSL card, I do think, is still WRMI QSL that I received late last year. I think it's the WRMI QSL. I've sent for 5 or 6 QSLs in the past 2 months of stations that I have never QSL'd before, except one, which is Radio Exterior de España, Radio Argentina al Exterior, RAE, Argentina, that I've sent a reception report by listening to it through WRMI. So that was the last one that I've sent. Kimberly says, "We're also watching the new Lost in Space. We're all enjoying it also." Yeah, it's good. I actually like it. I really liked it. Well, thank you very much. French Princess, boom, shika shika boom. Bill Mean, I've seen the first 2 episodes of New Lost in Space. So far, I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, it's kind of good. It's kind of good. What about Wall Boys? No one ever sings Wall Boys. And the reason why no one ever sings Wall Boys is because it's too high. I can't sing as high as Simon Le Bon. That guy sings really up here in his range. And Wall Boys is up there. Up there. And I heard one guy sing Wall Boys once. And if anyone could have sing it, he was the guy. Because he had the range to go there. And even him had a lot of difficulty singing it. Wall Boys is very high in range. It's too high for me. Dexfar74, nice to have you here. I have a question. What was for you better in the 70s, Star Wars or Battlestar Galactica? I'm a Battlestar Galactica guy. And I've actually never been a fan of Star Wars, ever. I'm a fan of Star Trek and Battlestar Galactica. I was a big fan. I watched everything when I was young of Battlestar Galactica. But Star Wars, kind of interesting, but it's not anything that I watch, really. I'm not a fan of Star Wars. Fabrice Simonet, bonjour. Nice to have you on board. Bienvenue. Dan Walsh, hello there. Yvonne says, my last card was Scandinavian Weekend Radio. I've never heard that station. I'd like to hear it. Yeah, I was a Battlestar Galactica guy also. So, that's a little high though. View to a Kill is it's a nice James Bond song, but it's a little high for me. I don't know. Maybe if I lowered the range a little bit on the View to a Kill is a good. William House. When is Cinco de Mayo? I don't know, eh? Southern Illinois Stan says, I'm looking forward to Deadpool 2 movie. So I didn't watch that. I'll need to watch the first one. We're in James Bond movies now. What is your favorite James Bond movie? Any James Bond movie has a shortwave radio in it somewhere? That's interesting. I've never noticed. I mean, with the spy stuff and everything, there must be a shortwave radio in one of the somewhere in one of the James Bond movies. You know. I like the James Bond. I'm a fan of James Bond, the older James Bond movies. For some reason, the newer James Bond I have a little difficulty with. But I liked it when there was. I liked Roger Moore in the role of James Bond. I really liked Roger Moore. He was really good in it. What's the other one? The older one, the guy that I forgot his name. Anyways, I have more difficulty with the newer one. Sheldon says, "Help me! I'm trapped in the '80s." Man. So Illinois Stan says, "Don't care for Star Wars." Said Vlada Doridia says, "Wow, someone who doesn't care for Star Wars." Yeah, I'm not. I don't really care for Star Wars, honestly. Oh man, yeah, we will tune. The propagation is not fantastic today, but we'll tune a little bit. When I go to when I use my bike and I go to Perry Island and things like that, I have a backpack. So I pack all the radios and the wires and everything I need in my backpack. Yeah, Sean Connery, thank you. I had his face and was like, oh man, what is his name? Sean Connery. Mike McDonald, nice to have you here. So, nice to have you on board. Yeah, Live and Let Die. Diamonds Are Forever is good. Moonraker is a pretty good one also, I gotta say. I think there was a radio in the background in a Bond film playing A Flock of Seagulls. Okay. You know, we always see these unusual. Just wait a second, guys. I'm not sure, but I think the cat is like saying, "Hey, man, easy." No, he's not there. I don't know why. I'm hearing I was hearing something, but I don't know. I thought Paul the cat wanted to come in, so you know. So, I don't know. Mickey Dalmage received a very nice oversized QSL from Radio Kuwait last week. Oh, are they still giving out those kind of fold QSLs that you actually can open? Does it still look like that? I remember the QSLs I got from Radio Kuwait were from the 80s. And maybe I got one from the 90s. But one was like a big letter-sized QSL, and that's pretty much what I had. And there was another one, I think was like a, you could open it up, and there was, most of the QSLs I've got are like things like almost booklets that you can open up, and they're really big. So maybe they're probably still doing that. Oh, so Radio Kuwait still QSLs. I need to try to get one. That'd be nice to have a new QSL. No problem, Sheldon. Hey, I'm an 80s guy, you know, I mean, I had my teenage years in the 80s, so I do like 80s music a lot. And my brother brought me the older stuff, you know, from the 60s or 70s. Shall you use a backpack for tech duty? You know what, I would do all my tech duties on bike. And I mean, I would do, when I was at the peak of my tech duties, I would do like 3,000, 4,000 kilometers of bike per summer, just for the tech duties. It really kept me in shape, I can tell you that. And it's surprising, you don't need a lot of stuff to fix computers, honestly. You really don't need a lot of equipment with you, in general. What else do we have? Vinyl's coming back. Yeah, I know. The younger generation is buying vinyl. Mickey Delmash says, no, the new QSL certificate is new. I do have the older version also. You will see it in the next messenger. Oh, okay, Mickey. Cool. That's going to be interesting to see. I want a QSL from Radio Kuwait now. Man. Oh, really? Sean Connery had a Norelco shortwave in one of the 007 movies? Huh. Okay. Well, you know, anybody that's... It's crazy what happens with these, because, I mean, I've got the walkie-talkies from Realistic here that are the same ones that the kids are using in the Stranger Things series. And for anybody that has Netflix, you got to watch Stranger Things. It's really good. And they use the TRC 214, 216. They have a few different models. I've got them here. My nephew came over one day and said, "This is so cool. My uncle has the same talkies that there's in Stranger Things." And I'm like, "Yeah, got them." And you know what? I bought the pair off eBay for I don't know, it's like 20, 25 bucks. Shipping included. And now if you look, they're super expensive, because now they've been featured in Stranger Things, which was one of the popular Netflix shows. Everybody wants them now. It's like everybody's selling them for crazy prices. I even had at least a dozen people watch one of my videos where I actually showed them in my YouTube channel, and they actually I probably got at least a dozen requests of, "Hey, how much are you asking for them? I want them." And so many comments of, you know, "Hey, Stranger Things walkie-talkies." Yeah, absolutely, they are. They are. Dark Noise says, I'm an 80s, 90s, and millennium guy. 3 eras in a lifetime. So lucky. Born in 79. So we have 10 years difference. I'm born in 69. My recommended 80s radio stations are Absolute Radio 80s and FlashbackRadio.com. Mad Radio the Xer says. Sheldon says, one spot is officially legalized here in Canada. I might look up on it and try to forget the 80s music. Oh, God. I don't like everything about 80s music. There's a lot of the very pop and very commercial things that I don't like. But there's some good stuff in the 80s. Man. What else is there? Cassettes are coming back too. Really? Cassettes also? Man. Now we'll have cassettes and vinyls at the store. Crazy. Sheldon says, in the movie The Right Stuff, one of the astronauts' wife has a speaker on her nightside table. It's actually an external speaker for the DX-160 with a NASA logo stuck on it. You know what, Sheldon? You are reminding me about something. Have you guys... I need to check that out again. Are you sure it's the right stuff? Isn't... Could it be... Okay, because now that you're mentioning that, I watched the Apollo 13 movie, the one with Kevin Bacon and anyways, and one of the scenes where his the commander's wife is listening to NASA communications in her room. I'm actually wondering if it's not, unless they use the same speaker, I'm wondering if it's not a speaker from a DX160 with a NASA logo stuck on it. Isn't that from the Apollo 13? I think it's Apollo 13. Because your explanation resembles what I've seen in the movie, and I've seen it recently. It's on Netflix, and I hadn't watched in a while, and I watched it about 2 weeks ago, Apollo 13, and I think that's what they had. It's a DX160 speaker with a NASA logo on it. Oh, this is interesting. It didn't, you know what? It didn't strike me. It didn't strike me at first, but now that you mentioned it, I was like, man, that did look like the realistic DX160 speaker. That's interesting. Mike McDonald says, Google says 1962 Dr. No James Bond movie has a KW Vanguard radio in the opening scene. Huh, interesting. Svetlana Rodriguez loves 80s music. PLF Radio, have you ever received EQSLs? Yeah, I've got several EQSLs that I've saved in files on my computers. I've got EQSLs from pirate stations. And a couple of EQSLs from stations, different stations. Absolutely. What else do we have? Brian Iowa, you're a Star Trek fan. I always wanted walkie-talkies that look like their communications. Yeah, I do. I like Star Trek. I do love Star Trek. Son-in-law, you ever scared in the 80s about nuke war, or was it an American thing? Scared is a big word. Scared is not what I was, but we were very, very aware about the nuclear war possibility. Yes. The moments where we were wondering a little bit what's going to happen. You know, the 80s. In the 80s, there was a lot of tension with the Cold War, but we didn't have the real big stuff like the 60s with the Cuban Missile Crisis and stuff like that. That's scary shit. But in the 80s, there was tensions, but somehow the way things were going, maybe it's me, but me personally, I was totally aware. I think everybody was very aware. Scared is not what I was. Maybe what was the most interesting and maybe scary moment was the Chernobyl nuclear plant accident, which was a major event back then. But apart from that, the only thing that I think made the 80s is that movie. The what was it? The Day After. What was the movie already named? The Day After. And where they, well, that movie was something, because it kind of put in the mind of everybody. Look, nobody will win a nuclear war, and that was kind of, I think, also a milestone, because it just showed to everybody, look, don't believe anyone. Nobody will get out of a nuclear war, but we were very aware. I mean, we were aware of tensions, with the U.S. and Russia. It was something that we were very, very aware about in the 80s, absolutely. And I mean, listening to Shortwave starting in 1982, listening to Shortwave Radio Moscow and all the Eastern Bloc countries and Radio Berlin added to that knowledge of of what happened. So it was crazy times. It was very crazy times. Mickey Delmage, yeah, absolutely. I saw Sheldon that posts. I actually like that. Sheldon on his personal Facebook posts the rock history stuff and the people that won't be down for breakfast, and I actually like that because it keeps me in touch with some rock news and some music news, and also it's kind of okay. And I saw the post of Platinum Blonde's bass player that was found dead in his studio. He was just about to release a solo album. Crazy. It was Apollo 13. I knew it, Sheldon. Because now that I thought about it, I was like, oh yeah, it's a realistic speaker with a NASA sticker on it. Oh man. Madrid the Exer says, for anyone who follows Walking Dead, was a recent episode when they went in an abandoned house who was a ham user. Shortwave blog has photos of the scenes with all the equipment. Oh, nice. Fastload, hey there. What I actually like is when they don't really research much and they actually put some kind of, military control station, and you look at it and it's like, okay, they just put a couple of realistic DX302s or 300s or some Yesu FRG7 or something in the background in there. It's like, it's supposed to be the really important military equipment, and you're like, huh, okay. I remember one show, one movie. I don't remember the movie exactly, but I remember one movie showing I think it was a realistic DX200, and another one. I remember one particularly because they had there's one that they have a realistic DX302 in it, and because I own one, I just like, oh, look at that. That's my radio, and it was super. It was supposed to be super fancy military stuff, but of course, for the majority of people, a realistic DX302 looks like super military stuff. For us, it's like, yeah, really, you took that old shortwave radio for military stuff? Okay, it's not even a transceiver, man. It's just crazy. Do we see in the movie? Oh God, that movie with Jodie Foster. In the beginning of the movie, she's a ham radio operator. Do we see what equipment she's using? I'm trying to remember. I don't know. I don't think we see the equipment. Madrid Extra says, yes, the day after scared me like anything when I was a kid. Yeah, that thing scared everybody. The Day After scared everybody. I can tell you that. That was the movie that just like, oh God, So yeah, there's an actual very, very good series. If you guys go on YouTube and want to see anybody that's been that's not been through that time, there's the series called Cold War. All of it is on YouTube, and I don't remember. I think it's 10 or 12 episodes, and it's called Cold War. And it has the actual people that were, in the government's decisions back then and so on. Yeah, these people talking about how crazy it was. And when you go through all of that series of Cold War, you actually wonder, wow, how come we're still here? Because it was just crazy. And crazy close how things came from time to time about what could happen. And Really, really amazing. And that's a very good series to listen to if you wanna have the feel of what the Cold War was all about. Look at that series, Cold War. It's available on YouTube. They have all the episodes, and it is very interesting. If you like history, and you know, because it's a series that was made after the Cold War was gone, you hear about stuff and you learn about things that they would not have told you in that era. You know, that is kind of very, very interesting. Just love that series. Really, really cool. You know, Fastone, I think it's we got to be careful about it. Won't happen because of that. Because it's very, very sometimes decisions and ridiculous things about the government seem to go higher than just whatever. It's crazy sometimes. I would not say what won't happen. I think the Cuban Missile Crisis showed us that it could absolutely happen. What was different maybe from the 1962, I think was it in 1962, the Missile Crisis? What was different is that back then, people thought that maybe we could survive a nuclear war. In 2018, pretty much everybody knows if there's a nuclear war, we're all dead. It's as simple as that, you know? Yeah, Contact. I don't know why I forgot that name. I never forget it. Contact. I don't think we see the handgear in the Contact film. But she is an amateur radio operator in Contact. A radio movie trivia. That should be interesting. In what movie do you see a Kenwood R1000 in the corner of the room when the communications are, you know, whatever? Man, it's crazy. You know what's weird? What's worse? Cosmic Lettuce says we need to get past war and nuke war and stuff like that. I read a very interesting article maybe a year ago about how a lot of the nuclear facilities in the United States are still working with 8-inch floppy disks from the 80s because they just haven't upgraded anything, and that the scare of a nuclear holocaust today does not come from the fact that two governments might want to go at war with each other, but because of all sorts of errors and problems that happen every year at these facilities. There's some really high-placed IT guys that are actually scared that it's just going to go off because of a glitch. Because nobody's careful, you know, it's like these things are there, and let's face it, you know, we don't hear about it. We heard in it, you know, you guys remember the 60s, 70s, 80s? We heard about the thousands and thousands of nuclear warheads. We kind of were in the know of, yeah, everybody has like thousands of these things, so we're all dead. And for some reason, in the 90s, it was like, oh, well, let's destroy some arsenal. You know, I was talking to a guy at work at Microsoft the other day, well, a couple of months back. We came to a subject of that, and it's like, you know, well, nuclear war, you know, there's no more warheads, or that there's not many. There's still plenty. The US and Russia still have thousands of them. They're still ready to use. And what was mentioned in there is that the risk isn't about us going at war together. It's something's going to happen because they're careless about taking care of it, and that there could be an accident because of that. And that's where we actually should be even more scared of the possibility rather than a real war. Just crazy. Svetlana Rodriguez says lots of communication receivers in Zombie Nation. Huh, interesting. Interesting. There was ham radio in Jurassic Park. Yeah, tells me something about that. Yeah, there's something that tells me about that. I've got something about that. Yvonne says, when you lived in Bulgaria, heard about a Chernobyl from the BBC before local news. Wow. I remember my physics teacher. I was in, when Chernobyl happened, I was in high school, my last year of high school. And my physics teacher, I noticed had a little something coming out of his shirt pocket. And I remember, I looked at him and said, hey, excuse me, sir, what's that in your shirt pocket? And he looked at me and said, it's a miniature Geiger counter. Because when Chernobyl happened, he just wanted to make sure that, you know, after a few days or weeks, that we don't have, you know, is everybody telling the truth? And he had one in his shirt pocket. I remember that. And he looked at me and said, well, you know, you're the first one. He told me, you're the first one to ask me about that. And I said, well, you know what? I'm probably, you know, in the physics class, honestly, in my physics class in the high school, apart from maybe another guy, I was pretty much one of the only ones that was extremely intrigued and very, I was concerned about the Chernobyl nuclear accident. Because it was and still is the biggest nuclear accident ever. And I think it was important to, you know, you guys in Europe, I mean, you guys in Europe, we're much closer to that. I don't know, but some of you must have really, really been a little scared about what are the consequences of all of this happening right now. You know? John Feeney, nice to have you here. And thanks, guys, when I actually have a little blank in some movies or things like that. So, you know, the great 1.44 floppy disk came out of the 80s. Yeah. Fabrice says, love movies and reality when they put a whole movie on a single floppy disk. I always love when they do that. War Games. War Games was cool for anybody that was in the BBS scene, the bulletin board scene for the time. I can tell you that. Can tell you that. Oh, man. Yeah, but sometimes, you know, the fast load, the logic goes away. Sometimes there's no more logic in the human mind. Yvonne says, shell equipment from the pre-electronics era is less affected by an electromagnetic pulse, so new technology is slow to make its way. Yeah, but still, you know, there needs to be a little more time taken. Even McRoberts says, back in the day, people just didn't know how bad nuclear followed away. They saw how clean nuclear power generation was, but after Chernobyl, yeah, Fukushima is a pretty good one also. People realized that how bad it can be. You know, it's sad because I think probably nuclear power could be something very, very useful, but unfortunately, we aren't, and we are incapable. We are incapable of taking care of what's happening. Because, and that's the sad part, because, you know, it could really offer a lot if it was done right. Take care of Vienna, or is PLF is going? Oh, take care of PLF Radio. Sorry, I thought Vienna was going, but it's PLF Radio that's going. Okay. Take care, my friend. We'll be back tomorrow at 2000 hours UTC, by the way. Three Mile Island in Pennsylvania was shut down soon. Hasn't profitable for the last few years. Yeah. But you know what they had at 3 Mile Island was so small compared to Chernobyl and stuff like that. You know, I mean, they were able to at least, you know. If you're on Netflix, try a movie called Pandora's Box. It's about an earthquake and then a tsunami and how that government tries to cover it up. I'll check it out. I believe I've seen the title, but I did not look at it. Yeah, at the end of the Independence Day, when they communicate how to, they're communicating on how to attack the aliens. They have Morse code and ham equipment, absolutely. I should have called this this episode of the live show today, let's find the ham radio and shortwave radio gear in movies. God. Even McRoberts heard the explosion of Chernobyl lead to the discovery of the Duga 3, which was just a few miles away. Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't that far. It wasn't that far from the Chernobyl area. And pretty amazing. Yes, Chernobyl is still... Japan is big, but Chernobyl is still the biggest disaster. Yes. Fukushima is a good one. It's a pretty good one. And you know, Fukushima brings you to another thing. It brings you to how can humans build nuclear power plants in areas where you know that earthquakes can be major and tsunamis can happen. You know, it's like, huh, kind of interesting here. Mad Radio DX here. When Chernobyl happened in the UK, we were on the edge of the contamination, and some farm foods had to be disposed of, I believe. Oh, absolutely. I remember seeing, I distinctly remember seeing, I think it was in France, where they actually slaughtered, animals because they had consumed the grass, you know, like cows and so on, because they had consumed the grass that was contaminated because of rain. I remember farms. They were throwing away all of the products from the farms because it had rained and it was contaminated with one of the things that I've seen, and I believe it's on YouTube. There's a 25 years after Chernobyl, which is very nice also to watch. And it's very interesting because they show how how nature came back, but they also show that it's crazy because they took like a little mouse, you know, and they put the Geiger counter next to it, and I mean it goes off scale. And it was one of the things they were saying. It's like what we are amazed is that there's these animals that are clearly irradiated with because they eat the stuff that is contaminated, and it's crazy. And they were showing that. They were also showing, for example, they're going on the road, and that was impressive. They're going on the road, and they were showing that on the road there's very little radiation left. But if they would go off the road into the woods, then the Geiger counter would start to go up. It was like, oh man, you got to be careful where you step. You got to be careful what you do. It's very interesting. They are actually looking. Chernobyl has become one of the biggest laboratory for knowing what happens when, you know. I think with Chernobyl, they are learning. Okay, what would happen if we would get, you know, nuclear war? Because they see it with the vegetation, the animals. They know that some animals never came back, and that others are actually back, even in higher numbers, because there's no more humans there, or almost, and they can withstand the radiation. It's crazy, really crazy. JDX says Chernobyl and Fukushima are killing us slowly. A single radioactive atom can stay dormant for 20, 40 years till it becomes active in the body. You know, I remember doing some research about that on the internet and watching, you know, how these different things have impacted. One particular aspect that I was very interested about was the impact of all the atmospheric nuclear tests. Because we talk about, you know, Fukushima, we talk about Chernobyl. But one thing we never talk about, and we should not forget, is the hundreds and hundreds of atmospheric nuclear tests done by the US government in the Nevada desert. And the overall aspect of all of this, meaning the nuclear tests done by Russia, the nuclear tests done by the United States and other countries. And what you see is that the overall radiation around Earth did rise slightly. And it rose more because of the atmospheric tests than Fukushima and than Chernobyl together. So we gotta not forget that. Okay, there's kind of a bigger aspect that we have to look at, and that's why at some point they thought, well, let's do nuclear tests underground. But I did see a report somewhere saying that there were I don't remember the numbers, but there were a certain number of people that in the next 100 years will actually have died because of the atmospheric nuclear tests that were done in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Totally. So you look at that and it's like, yeah, okay. Okay. Sheldon says, well, there was some good 80s music with the exception of Culture Club and Human League. Check out the stuff on this Rolling Stone magazine list. There was some good stuff in the 80s. There was some really, really nice stuff. But, you know, oh, I'm going to check that out. You know what, Sheldon? You gave me a great link because I'm looking for new albums to listen to on my Google Home Mini because I have a Google Play subscription. And thank you. I will actually listen to what is the top 100 albums of the 80s. Thanks for the link. I'm going to check that out, I can tell you that. I will really, really check that out. Jerry says, heard Hard Bell as a ham operator on the radio a few times back in the day. Wow. Cool. Hey, David in Barcelona. Nice to have you here. And we're also in a bit, you know, you're kind of, you say a little bit later and unusual, but at the same time, we're unusual in our comments today in our talk. 9650, anything here? There's a weak signal. Very weak signal. But nothing much coming up. We'll check out what we can hear on the shortwave bands a little bit. BBC on 12095 from Ascension Islands coming in. Not very strong. But I do get the BBC Ascension Islands 12095 a little bit. BBC World Service. Brian Pinney says, hey, I'm late, but I know, but check out On the Beach 1959 for an interesting twist on nuclear war, just saying. On the Beach 1959, okay. Well, check that out. I've never seen that. Never seen that. William Helm says, my dad was ship's master of the USA. The Cuban quarantine of 62. Wow. That's a piece of history in itself. Hey, Tom Zoo, nice to have you here. Really, really interesting. Yeah. Art Bell is a legend, Paranormal Area 51, and crazy things like time machines. That's what, you know, there are all sorts of things. Oh, absolutely. 80s music and Mad Radio DX, you got it right. 80s music plus Nuclear Scare equal Two Tribes. And if anybody have seen the video of Two Tribes, which is Ronald Reagan against the Russian president of the time, in an arena where they're fighting it off with Two Tribes, and that video clip was banned. I believe it was banned in many places. It was banned on MTV because nobody wanted to show that. And I remember seeing it here on I think it was on Much Music, which was kind of new at the time. And I remember seeing Two Tribes, and I believe I have Two Tribes video on a VHS cassette here. Wow. Brandon Ottawa says, I love that movie called Pirate Radio. I haven't seen that. I need to check it out. It's good. Have you checked out what the new 5G network will do to the human body? Scary stuff. You know, I'm not much of a... I understand that the technology we use, you know, I mean, just look, okay? I'll give you an example. I remember reading an article about Vatican Radio. Vatican Radio transmitter site, okay, is very near population. And there is some reports that the transmitter site of Vatican Radio might have affected the health of the local population there. There seems to be maybe a higher amount of cancers and stuff like that. And you know what? So there's case studies of what things happen, and you know, I do think that all the technology around us is having an effect on our body, totally. Okay, and that I'm sure of. It's not a question of if it has an effect. It's a question that it does. But it does to what degree, and what degree does it actually maybe bring us to being sick or something. You know, over the years when I was really working a lot as a tech guy, I can tell you, I don't know how many people told me I turn off my router at night because I don't want to have the Wi-Fi signals going through my body when I'm sleeping. And I only turn it on when I use my computers. And I'm an open-minded guy. You know, somebody would probably tell them, well, you know, well, you're dumb, you shouldn't do that. Which is not what I am. I probably, you know, I was like, oh, okay. But I was always saying, you know, do you leave your cell phone on? And sometimes people will say, yeah, I leave my cell phone on. And I would tell them, you know, your cell phone's power is much higher than your router's power. It's actually more dangerous technically. But then again, we don't really have much proof about that. Except we know that there are some effects, you know, on the body. We know that a cell phone next to your head does warm up a part of your brain. That is a known and measured fact. Does it affect and do something? That's another story. And I'm not the kind that really looks into conspiracy theory stuff. I am very open-minded, but I am also aware. And take and leave stuff, depending on what I read. And one of the clients I went to, I remember, was telling me, oh, you know what, I shut down my phone, I shut down my router, I shut down everything. And one day I said, okay, and it makes you feel better? Yeah. And I remember it was a guy, he told me, I feel bad when they're on. And he told me, I think, you know, the high level of radiation, of radio waves, or whatever, is making me sick. And I said, so you feel better? And he said, yeah. And I maybe I should not have told him, because he moved the next year, and I'm sure he moved because I told him that. out his window, not even 20 feet away, 30 feet away, was a big cell tower. Because he lived next to train tracks. And there was a really big tower. And I told him, I said, you know, that tower is blasting waves through this room right now at a much higher, and there's much higher radiation here than what your router and cell phone together are probably putting out inside your room, because you're really close. And I probably shouldn't have shut up, because I'm sure he moved because I said that. He never told me, but you know, I wouldn't be surprised he started feeling sick because I just told him there was a cell tower there. But you know, what I wanted to mostly say by that is, just think about it. You say you feel good because your cell phone's now closed, shut down. But yet, you live 30 feet away from a really huge cell tower that pumps, you know, hundreds of kilowatts through their antenna. It's like, okay, you know, sometimes there's more here than anywhere else. You got to be careful. But, you know, everything is possible. I mean, radio waves have an effect. Radio waves are passing through our body all the time, of all the radio communications and things that's happening. I don't know. JS Ryder 327, love your channel, man, big fan. Thank you very much. Even McRoberts says, work alongside FEMA and currently stationed in Puerto Rico. Lots of 2-meter ham activity down here. Should have bought my shortwave down here with me. Yeah, you know, there's probably a lot of communications going on, especially with the reconstruction efforts. Puerto Rico, you know, we don't talk about it much here anymore in North America, but it's still totally devastated with what happened with the hurricane last year. Fabrice says, I did a few shortwave listening sessions since I arrived in Japan. Chinese stations are everywhere in the band. Absolutely. You know what, Fabrice, yeah, China has its own time stations, absolutely. BPM, absolutely. You know what, I've tuned the shortwave bands on the Hong Kong receiver, and one also in, I believe, in Tokyo, on the SDR.HU, a Kiwi radio. And basically, it's crazy when you look at the bands in China or in Asia. The first thing that I noticed is that the first thing is that it's as if it was in the 80s and it was full of stations everywhere. It's just crazy what you hear there. Yeah, Jerry, Mad Radio DXer is right. It's what is that? Konstantin Chernyenko that is fighting Ronald Reagan in that video. Gorbachev was not yet. Chernyenko was the guy that was there wasn't there very long as the head of Russia back then. But Mad Radio DXer is right. It's Chernyenko that was the head of the Russian state in the Two Tribes video. Southern Illinois Stan says, will there be a show tomorrow? Yes, tomorrow, 2000 hours UTC, absolutely. And getting up early to view the Lyrid meteor shower. Oh, cool. Hope you see a lot of those. So, well, you know, 5G will not necessarily kill shortwave. What the problem is with all this new technology is mostly the equipment, the electronic equipment around it, much more than radio waves. So, you know, we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen. You know, you never know. Jerry says, I made a crystal radio and added an LED. The LED will light up from my local AM station, 50,000 watts. Lots of power out there. Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you get enough RF signal from a station, you'll be able to light up something, and you'll be able to have something power up. Absolutely. I mean, I remember when I built a few crystal receivers when I was young, and I remember some stations being sold out, and they're like, wow, that thing isn't magical. It's working because the radio wave is actually just strong enough to give a little bit of power for that crystal receiver to actually react and work, honestly. Chernyenko, I don't think so. I think it just died somehow. But I remember he was just there for not a long time, but I don't remember exactly how he died. But I do remember that guy was there a very short while. And yeah, well, it's if you hold any look, guys, it's very simple. If any of you have very high powered lines, electric transmission lines. If you take a fluorescent tube under a very powerful transmission line from like here, for example, Hydro-Quebec has these very high powered transmission lines to bring the power to Montreal. If you stand underneath one and hold on the top of your arm a fluorescent tube, at night, because in the daytime you won't see it, but at night you'll see it glow a little bit. You'll see that there's just enough electromagnetic field in there that it's actually exciting the atoms in the fluorescent bulbs. Scott Collier, nice to have you here. Romania on 7315. Wow. Very weak. Aren't there on 79760 also? Propagation is really bad tonight. It shows that the K index is very high. We're having a minor geomagnetic storm right now. Really shows up. So interesting evening. We're talking about movies and their the radios in the movies and the basically nuclear war. A few things I want to mention. A few little stations that you might want to try that are kind of interest. So first of all, some people ask me, okay, I don't know what to listen to, what times, and sometimes you just want to listen to a station and you're not really sure what to listen to. So I thought I'd give out a little bit of easy catches, some of the shortwave stations that aren't too difficult to listen to, both for Europe and North America. So one of them that is usually an easy catch, especially and that's the biggest problem in North America, the East and the West Coast is a little more difficult sometimes. So two times where, Voice of Turkey, pretty easy catch in general. Maybe not tonight with the propagation conditions. And every station I will mention here tonight, by the way, if you don't hear it one night, try it the next night or try it for a few days. Because there are unfortunate times where propagation might not be as good, like for tonight, for example. Voice of Turkey, English. If you want to listen to that in North America and Western Europe, 22 to 2300 hours UTC. That's 6 p.m. Eastern time on the East Coast of North America. Usually gives in a pretty good signal. I receive it with my portable radios and just telescopic. Sometimes because it's the time where I prepare like supper. I often have my little portable radio and I'll hear it quite often. 9830 kilohertz for the summer. So this is summertime frequency. So Voice of Turkey, both for Western Europe and Eastern North America, 22 to 2300 hours UTC, 9830. You also have a repeat, but that one is a little harder for, at least for North America. It depends on propagation conditions. 03 to 0400, that's 11 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 9515 for that frequency. There's also a morning broadcast for Western Europe. Well, a midday broadcast for Western Europe, but a morning one for here in North America that sometimes makes it. 12:30 to 13:30 UT. That's for Western Europe. 15450. 15450. That one I hear quite regularly here. So even though it's for Western Europe, because it's in the general direction of North America, often it makes it to North America quite well. And 1830 to 1930, early evening in Europe, 9785 kilohertz. That's for Western Europe. So you guys in Europe can try the 1830 to 1930 UT. Western Europe 9785. So Turkey is one of the targets that's not too difficult to receive in general. Weighted Cube, hey there, nice to have you on board. And always nice to have you here. The you know what, Radioactive, there's a it reminds me of going to a mini golf. There was a mini golf course that the edges were made of metal, and I remember I had my club which was made of metal, and that mini golf was on under and yes, it's on now, right? That's true. 9830, by the way. Barely making it right now. It's usually better than that, by the way. And thanks to Richard Cook, I didn't realize it was already 22 something UTC. Time flies so fast when I do these shows that I get kind of, you know, lost in the time. So yeah, 9830 is down right now, but it's not as strong as it could be. It could be stronger than that usually here. In Europe, you guys are hearing it well. This is Richard Cook, by the way, for Voice of Turkey. So, yeah, K is 5 right now. I saw that the K was 5 about an hour ago, so it's minor storm right now for the latest numbers. So as Mickey Delmage is saying. But anyways, going back to that, when I was playing mini golf, and we were under the big power lines of Hydro-Quebec, I was playing with my friend, and suddenly my metal club touched the metal border of the mini golf course, and we could hear it buzzing. It was really buzzing, really loud, and I could actually feel kind of a vibration. And I was like, man, this is crazy. It's like, it shows you that, you know. And you know what? Once when I was on my bicycle, I crossed power lines from Hydro-Quebec, and it started pinching really hard on my thighs. And what happened is that my hands were touching the rubber handles, but my thighs, and I was wearing shorts, were touching barely the metal of the side of my bike seat. And it was pinching like somebody was pinching me really hard, and I was like, whoa, what's happening? And that's where I learned that when you are in a bicycle under really big power lines, you better off taking one hand and touch a metal part of your bike, because that will prevent you from having that effect of a pinching because of contact loss. But you know, it shows you that these high powered lines have an effect up to the ground. There's a lot of energy in there, and the magnetic fields are there, you know. It's just crazy. Thomas Taylor, nice to have you here. Let's slowly go down. David in Barcelona says, when Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty transmitter site in Pals north of Barcelona was active, people in the area reported hearing Russian out of their light bulbs. I wouldn't be surprised with a very, very strong signal. You know, it's like, if you guys remember when I had Amanda Dawn Christie on the CIDX barbecue show, and she was saying in her documentary Spectres of Shortwave, she talks about it. They talk about it. People hearing RCI in different languages through their, their sink and through their toaster or fridge or whatever. And there's a lot of energy in those transmissions. I mean, the Sackville transmitter side was powerful. That was up to 500 kilowatt power in there. These were very powerful transmitters. I mean, when it's powerful enough, if you have, if by chance the way something is made up resonates at a certain frequency, it's gonna just resonate and you'll hear the transmission. It's a little bit like a crystal radio, What else do we have? Tavidas Lagunavicius says, speaking of solar activity, CB radio estimator was going nuts today. Yeah, it does happen sometimes, but it rarely happens that solar activity will have an effect on noise, but who knows? Weighted Cube. Apologies if the question has already been asked, but how have you found SDR console? Oh yeah, we'll talk a little bit about it. Okay, so I'm not impressed. I will say you exactly right away, but I can't give out a verdict, honestly. Okay, I'm not impressed, but I do not have a verdict yet to give because I haven't used it enough, and I will give it a fair chance. Okay, because I want to make sure that I understand it enough and use its capabilities enough to at some point give it a fair. What I found about SDR console, I find it kind of a mix bag between HD SDR and SDR Sharp mixed together. I am not used to the interface enough, and that's the problem right now. So that's why I don't necessarily like it much. I just ain't up to par with it right now. So I don't want to give it a positive or negative take, honestly. I really don't want to have a positive take on it or a negative take on it. I don't have enough info yet. I still need to use it more. And I need to understand it more also. So I will talk about it for sure once I use it more. I got a lot of messages. People say, "Oh, well, you're gonna love it," and well, I still need to love it, but well, I'll continue using it. I mean, I'm working on it. I've been able to. I mean, it works fine. I still need to. One of the biggest things that I need to do is because I use my Fedry through my local area network. I get cutoffs of the data because it isn't fast enough. Because the laptop that I use for the SDR console is actually on the N, so 2.4 gigahertz. And it doesn't connect very fast. So when I actually ask it to give me a very good spectrum, it cuts out regularly. What I will do, and I didn't think about it, I don't know why, I'll take the Ethernet cable I'm using right now with my laptop to have a good stream, and I'll plug it in my laptop to have the direct LAN connection instead, and see if it's better. But I need to test it more. Honestly, I need to test it more, and we'll report back with maybe a little more details. And I want to make a HD SDR versus the SDR console, and give my honest opinion of what I think, honestly. Dave Todd says CB activity lately is Sportic E. Really, the solar activity has nothing to do with it. Yeah, the Sportic E, absolutely, Dave Todd. Sportic E skip is mostly what explains the CB and 10 meter band openings, because the solar activity is so low that it doesn't support 10 meters right now. So hey Thomas Taylor, Moria 330 says they can cause drones to lose signal. There's a lot of things that solar activity can do things for sure, Data Duden, does anyone know if 5G will be unlimited data or size of data packages? You know what? That is not a question of being 5G or not. It's a question of the carriers, what they will decide, honestly. Richard Cook has 11820, the highest frequency he's got, which is probably Saudi Arabia. Jerry says, when I try to work on misty or foggy days, I hear a buzzing noise through the radio while passing under the hydro lines. Oh, it's possible. Possible. There is an effect. There's an effect. I remember when I was young being amazed when my dad, there was a place we would go through. There were power lines, and my dad would be on an AM station. And every time we would go underneath the power lines, the station we're listening to would fade out. And we'd hear a strong buzzing sound. And then as we moved away, the buzzing would go away and the station would come back. Monkey Magic says, just tune into Voice of Turkey from Oman, UAE border. Loud and clear. Cool. Cheers. Nice to see that the signal's making it there. It's here, but it's not super strong. It's stronger than that usually. Honestly. Dave Todd says, I have heard that kids with braces have heard radio transmissions. I've heard something about someone that might have heard saying, is it true or not? I don't know, but I kind of remember something about a guy that had fillings made of lead, and that when he would shut his mouth together, and he was living really close to a transmitter side of an AM station. I remember him saying that he could hear the radio station in his ear because it would kind of, give out the audio. Everything's possible when especially when you're very close to a high transmitters, high-powered transmitters. I mean, anything is possible. A lot of things can happen, I can tell you that. Gary Golay, hey, nice to have you here. Electronics USA, nice to have you on board from Southern California. Nice to have you here. VK2FBAJ from Sydney, Australia, nice to have you here. Pretty cool. So, what other transmissions that could be easy to catch for a lot of people? You know what? One of the best catches could be Radio Romania. Radio Romania, since they have upgraded many years ago, their transmitter site has been packing amazing signals. So, if you want to hear Radio Romania, here are the possibilities. So, if you live in eastern part of North America, 0 to 0100 hours UTC. That's 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. 7375-9730. 7375-9730. If you're in the west coast of North America, you might try 03 to 0400 UTC. 7375-9730 once again. In the west coast, I believe, so this 03 is 11, so that means for like California, for example, that would mean it's 8 p.m. in California. If you're in Europe, you might want to try 11 to 1200 UT in the morning or noon area. 13750, 15130. And by the way, that 15130 on 11 to 12 sometimes makes it here to the eastern coast of North America also. I need to try it out one morning. I never wake up early enough for that. 11 UT is 7 a.m. I'm usually still asleep. You can also in Europe try 17 to 1800 hours on 11810 and 2030 to 2100 on 6170 9535 is DRM. There's also 7315 and 9760 to Europe on 22 to 23. There's 2030 to 2100 for Eastern North America. That one's on 11850 and 13650. So these are usually stronger. And Romanian packs a really good signal in general. So that's another station to listen to for sure. Let me just go back here and we continue here. Somebody sent a notification here that I want to just check out. So we'll be checking that out here for the SDR console. A lot of people saying they love SDR console, so I need to. Anybody using SDR console in the chat? What are the what do you like about it? Share with me what you like about it. What I should be looking at in SDR console that maybe I'm missing out. That could be an interesting thing. So anybody using SDR console out there? Fabrice Simonet says, power lines are a nightmare for us shortwave listeners in Japan because of earthquakes. They put nothing underground and everything on poles, big converters at every blocks. Yeah, sometimes these can really be very noisy, honestly. Richard Cook's getting WRMI on 7780, 7780. Let's try it out. It's there, but it's weak. Look at that really big thing there, the Whopper. Look at that. A white noise signal here. There's a really big white noise signal starting about 7820 to 7840. Really huge signal there. Anybody else receiving that white noise signal? I guess this is a shortwave signal. It seems to propagate up and down. Look at that, 7820, 7840 kilohertz, a very, very big white noise signal. Hey Yadesh, thank you for being here from Trinidad. Tomorrow, 2000 hours UTC, we'll be back. So if you want to watch more tomorrow. Electronics USA says HD SDR is hard to beat. I use it with SDR radios from 5- and excellent performance. You know, I still ain't. I've been using SDR console, and I still ain't. Convinced about SDR console, honestly. So the reason I'm not using SDR console right now is because I don't want to have to. First, it doesn't perform super well because I would have to put a dongle that would be in the laptop that I got there is one of those laptops that companies put out that are just kind of dumb. Only 2 USB ports. So it's like, okay, 2 USB ports. Really? Only 2. Okay. So basically, because I have 1 USB port on the laptop that is running through a HDMI, VGA to HDMI adapter, and I've got the other one with the wireless keyboard, I got no more USB ports. And I do not like using USB, dongles or whatever extenders that has like, many USB ports because they often crash or have problems. So because of the little problems and the fact that I'm not used to it totally, and the fact that I love the HDSDR interface better, that's why I'm at HDSDR using right now. Take care, Fabrice. It was nice to have you on board. We'll be back tomorrow, 2000 hours UTC. And by the way, for those that are watching, if you wish to help me out, some PayPal donations of course, you can help me out at paypal.me/shortwave or at the Yahoo email that you see here. You can be on patreon.com/radio and computers if you want to be on Patreon. Give me a little something every month. Join 10 patrons that are giving me a little something every month. And don't worry about the amount. It doesn't matter. You know, if people would give me small amounts, but more people, it might be even better. So, whoops, what did I do here? I clicked on something. Oh, here we go. We're back. I probably touched something. So anyways, hey computers, you know. If you want to help me out, of course. I'm trying to reach out to people that watch the show regularly and never donated. I want to think about it. And, you know, so I was talking today. I had some problems with my lighting system, and I had to purchase some new equipment for today's show. So, you know, the donations help out here in doing this. So thanks for everybody that have donated, by the way. And if you can spare a little something, it's always welcome. You're watching the Shortwave show. So anything else, guys? I'll going to close down slowly as we have another one tomorrow, another show. We'll be talking about radios tomorrow again. I'm a little hungry and a little tired today. I've had a lot of things to do. So if you enjoyed today's show, anybody has anything else to add before we leave? Questions? Anything? And of course, tomorrow 2000 hours UTC. Don't forget that next Friday, we will have Friday the 27th. We will have the VHF UHF show. So next Friday we're going to talk about what's happening above 30 megahertz, because it's the last Friday of the month already. Time is just flying. It's just crazy. We did not see the Ace Cat. Yeah, well, he's sleeping, and I guess he's not there. And he's been like going out all night. Yesterday he asked me to go out like at 11 p.m. I woke up at 3 a.m. and he was waiting at the door. He woke me up at 4:30 a.m. to say, hey, I want to go back out. So in the past few days, because of the good weather, he's been spending all night outside. And of course, he's spending all day sleeping. So we'll try to have him tomorrow, if possible. So hey, take care, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this show. I know it's a little shorter than usual, but we're going to be back tomorrow at 2000 UT. What type of wire would we recommend for making a wire dipole? You know, any gauge wire, any, you know, copper wire, you know, with insulation will make it. The important thing about the wire is mostly that it actually is big enough so that it can withstand the weather elements outside. That's mostly it, because for the rest, it doesn't really matter what size wire you use when you're listening to shortwave. It's really choose whatever is strong enough to withhold the wind, and if you have snow or ice, that's what you're thinking about more than anything else. Mickey Delmach says the life of a teenage cat. Yeah, maybe. He's going out at night. Kevin O'Reilly says ADR console, been using it for years. V2 allowed remote control over the net. V3 has, in my opinion, an excellent waterfall and spectrum display. It's a personal thing, and we use what suits us best. Well, you know, that's what I think, Kevin, also. I have the impression that my personal favorite is HD SDR. And I think it has to do with the personal, really personal aspect of everything here. So have a good evening, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks for being here. Tomorrow, 2000 hours UTC. And take care. And love you all. And hope you can join us again tomorrow on the live show. 2000 hours UTC, guys. Bye, everyone. Stay safe. Thanks.